Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. This week, we'll be looking at Chapter 5, which is listening to the customer. And I have quite a few quotes before we get going, because listening is such an important component of customer service. So some quotes that I feel are very valuable. One of the most sincere forms of respect is actually listening to what another has to say. All too often, we're just so busy with our devices and life is just, busy for everybody. But to take a step back and actually listen to someone, to look them in the eye, to pay 100% attention and be in the moment, as the quote says, is the highest form of respect. Most of the successful people I've known are the ones who do more listening than talking, and that couldn't be more important in customer service. I used to have a boss that he didn't know how to stop talking, and we'd be with a customer, and customers like to talk, and once you let them talk, that's when you really start discovering kind of the nuances and really being able to read between the lines. So being able to listen is a very valuable skill. Being able to stop talking can be challenging for some, but it really is something that we need to pay attention to and be mindful of. The world is giving you answers each day. Learn to listen. Again, that whole idea of being mindful, being in the moment. And if you pay attention and listen, you'd probably be surprised how many answers are right in front of you. Again, all too often, we're just so busy going about our days that we forget to take a step back and pay attention to the information that is being provided around us. This is probably one of my favorite quotes. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And I will admit I have been guilty of this, because sometimes, we start hearing things and we want to respond, and we want to respond with an intelligent response. So we're already processing, a response, or processing information. Okay, what am I going to say? How am I going to counteract this? But instead of actually listening to what the person has to say in its entirety before responding, and we are already trying to process this information and turn it into a response in our minds. So again, this is, out of all the quotes I've just presented, this is one that I value most, and it's one that I know I need to focus on most as well, and really listen with the intent to understand rather than with the intent to reply. Because if you listen carefully, as I say, you'll get the whole story and the whole picture. If you're not listening carefully and you're listening to reply, you most likely will be missing things. We all know that communication is an important part of customer service, and listening to your customer and understanding truly what they want will allow you to provide the services and products that they want, and deliver beyond their expectations. Because again, if you listen, it's often the nuances and listening between the lines that makes a really, really successful customer service provider. Okay, so why do we think listening is important to customers and customer service? So, part of it is that it shows that you care. It shows that you're paying attention. It shows that you are genuine and you want to understand what the customer is saying, if there's an issue or they're trying to help you and provide feedback. It also makes a customer feel like they're valued because you are paying attention, and it installs confidence in them because they think, wow, this person is really paying attention to what I have to say. It enables you as an organization, a customer service provider, to determine what their needs are. So by listening and obtaining feedback from customers, you can, it actually helps guide a lot of organizations' research and development to improve products and services and meet the changing needs of customers. Customers' needs are always changing. And, a great example is BlackBerry. Back in the early 2000s, BlackBerry was like the leader in its industry, but they stopped listening to their customers, and in turn, they stopped being innovative. And then Apple was listening to its customers and other device providers Android providers, sorry, they were listening to their customers, so they were evolving, but BlackBerry wasn't. It was a prime example. There's a lot of studies actually that have been done on BlackBerry and the fact that they weren't listening to their customers and in turn were not being innovative to meet their ever-changing needs. Listening also enables you to remember details of your customers, and this really helps build relationships with your customers. You know, if you know that a customer, you know, for example, my one son is huge into hockey. So if, you know, if I created a bond with someone and their child was also into hockey, that's something we could, you know, create a bond. And or if I knew, you know, someone's child's birthday or they were going to an event, the next time I saw them, I could say, hey, how did that event go? Or how did the hockey game go? So by listening carefully and remember details, you're able to help build those relationships. And often, you know, I don't remember them. My memory really isn't the greatest, but, you know, writing these things down, but you have to listen in the first place before you can write these things down. Again, listening helps you understand the situation in its entirety. So as that quote says, if you listen to understand, you're able to get the entire picture, because there's nothing more embarrassing if someone, you know, a customer has spoken to you and told you the story, but because you weren't quite listening, you're asking questions that they've already provided you the information for. Listening also, again, helps you identify opportunities. So, you know, sometimes if you hear things and it can trigger, oh, you're interested in this. Well, we have a product that can satisfy that need. So, you know, it builds opportunities and it helps you gain new customers. You'd be surprised how many companies do not listen to their customers. BlackBerry was one of them, and there are a number here. BlackBerry's the first one here, Lululemon, Target, and Coca-Cola. I won't go into too much detail with all of them. You know, Google them, and you'll see. The Target example is the Canadian. When Target tried to come into the Canadian market and they did not listen to the Canadian customers, and it was an epic fail. But the Coca-Cola is more of a classic. In 1985, Coca-Cola, they decided, because Pepsi had changed the taste of Pepsi, Coke thought, oh, it's time to change the taste of Coke as well. Well, they've failed to do any research with their customers and really understand how tied their customers were to the taste of Coke. And I don't think they did enough research also in the taste of the new Coke that they were going to introduce. So it was an epic fail, and their customers were furious at them, and they didn't like the Coke that they had introduced. But luckily they were able to turn it around, and it turned into, they call it a marketing triumph, because they ended up reintroducing the Coca-Cola Classic, and they admitted their mistake. And my understanding is they actually still do have two Cokes. I don't know if to this day, but initially they did. But in the meantime, while they made the change, Pepsi really benefited from it. So, but luckily Coke was able to turn it around. But again, you know, it goes to show you really need to value the input from your customers. So the listening process, there's hearing, and then there's listening. So hearing is just the passive psychological process of receiving sounds, actually sound waves, and it transmits through the brain. So you know something is coming in, but you're not necessarily paying attention. Whereas actually listening takes it one step further. So it's hearing, but you're actually starting to place meaning in the information that is going into your brain. So this is the actual listening process. You'll need to understand this for the midterm. You know, so what exactly is listening? It's the process which is the primary means of getting information from a customer, and it's the primary way of getting information into your brain. So there's hearing and receiving message, and then there's attending the message. So once our ears pick up the sound waves, the brain focuses on what is heard. Then the brain comprehends it, and it starts deciphering what this information is and putting meaning to it. So it's kind of decoding the message. And then memory and recognition occurs in your brain, you know, to see if you're familiar with it and how to process this information. And then responding is how you, you know, provide the appropriate response to your customer interactions. So, you know, again, this is a process that you should understand. Okay, so I'm going to keep this a short chapter. I am going to post a website which will help you determine kind of what the level of your listening skills are. And I think, you know, all of us can learn from this. So it's a little quiz that you should do for yourself. I'm also going to post 2 TED Talks actually by Julian Treasure. And the first one is 5 Ways to Listen Better. And I really encourage you to listen to these. It's something you can do, you know, while you're cooking or doing something that you can kind of hear on the side, but it really provides some information. Listening is becoming a lost art because there is just so much noise and clutter that we're inundated with that we just aren't processing information. And listening is so important to pass down accurate information. I mean, when you think of over the years, that's how information has been passed down, is by listening properly. If you don't listen, information isn't passed on correctly. So, you know, Julian has some great information. And here are some poor, you know, indicators of poor listening. And when you take that test, you know, these are some of the things that will be pointed out. You know, when someone keeps asking you for more information and asks you questions again, you know, did you hear what I said? Or if you find that you're missing key information, or, you know, your customer is looking at you like, weren't you listening, or I already gave you the answer to that question. And, you know, if you're distracted or daydreaming, and if you're answering incorrectly, these are some of the signs. So again, really pay attention to your listening. I can't stress enough how valuable a skill set listening is in the business environment. And when you're in a boardroom, you know, I always say, excuse me, if you're participating in a meeting down the road in a business, you know, if I'm there, I need to participate. But of equal value is to listen to what everybody has to say, and that is crucial. Is to hear what the various people and also the interactions that people have. And you know, those are part of soft skills that are really, really valuable, and again enable you to read between the line and read a room and read individuals and how they're receptive to, you know, the information that's being circulated. So this is the other TED Talks I'm going to post: how to speak so that people want to listen. Again, sometimes we go on, and you know, we need to be succinct in our information, and you know, be open to critical thinking. And so listening it's important not only to be able to listen, but also to speak so that people will listen and demand their attention. Okay, so homework for this week. Thank you. I'm in the midst of going through everyone's assignment or exercise, I should say, reflection exercise number 2 of who you're going to interview. And I'm super excited already. I see some really interesting people that you're going to be interviewing, some entrepreneurs, people that have been in an industry and customer service for a very long time. So I'm sure they have some very valuable information to pass on to you, and hopefully provide some great insight to you. So assignment number 1 is due on Sunday. Again, don't forget, on Thursday at noon, if you have any questions regarding this assignment, I am available, and I'll have a drop-in session. I apologize for that. And Maverick, there's a squirrel passing by here. So read chapter 6, and then just a reminder that on Sunday, February 19th is the midterm. I apologize for it being on a Sunday, but that was decided by the department. So let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so have a great week, everyone, and take care.